This video is going to help improve your aim in Battlefield 6 with 7 simple tips. Because unlike some other FPS games on the market, Battlefield 6 has some unique game mechanics that don't make a lot of sense unless you're aware of them. Because there's been conscious game design decisions to make certain weapon types perform better at range compared to others. And you'll have probably noticed bullets not always going where you're aiming, which can be pretty frustrating. But don't worry, we're going to fix that. And if you do find this video helpful, just taking a second to hit the subscribe button will be greatly appreciated. Now, my first tip to improve your aim in Battlefield 6 is to understand bloom. Now, bloom is when your bullets don't go exactly where your crosshair is pointing, even if you're aiming perfectly. It basically makes you have worse accuracy even if you're tracking perfectly, and it'll increase the longer you hold down the trigger or if you're moving while shooting. Which is why some players that have come from Call of Duty especially have been struggling with their aim in Battlefield 6. That is why you'll notice when I'm just holding the trigger down whilst firing at these targets, you'll see random bullets flying off to the side, nowhere near where I'm actually aiming. Which brings me onto a big tip on how to counter this with any automatic weapon in Battlefield 6, and it's called tap firing. You effectively want to fire your weapon in short, controlled bursts, meaning the bloom effect doesn't kick in for those shots at longer ranges, and you'll instantly notice a huge improvement to your accuracy right away. Because the bloom mechanic catches a lot of people off guard, so just get into the habit of quickly tapping your trigger rather than holding it down. Now remember, you only have to tap fire for those longer engagements, because at close range, the bullet deviation caused by bloom doesn't really come into effect. Spend some time in the firing range so you get a proper feel of when to tap fire and when to use full auto with whatever weapon that you're using. Another huge tip to get better aim in Battlefield 6 is to understand that there is different recoil depending on whether you're standing, crouching, or laying in prone. If you're standing, you get the complete baseline, but go into a crouch and you'll instantly have less bullet deviation. And then prone will give you even less, making it easier to land your shots on your target, especially when combined with tap firing. And that is why it's important in Battlefield 6 to get the best aim. You always want to be in the best firing position for your situation. It's why a lot of the time I will try and slide into cover and crouch when shooting at targets at a further range. Or if I'm holding a position behind a car, I'll lay in prone and fire from the side, giving me a big advantage on oncoming opponents. Just bear in mind, you do get better accuracy, but are an easier target to hit as you get less overall mobility in prone and even a slight delay when going to stand back up. So if you're playing aggressively, try to stick to standing and crouching and you'll have a lot more success. Now, my next tip is going to help you control your aim even more and help you counter that bloom mechanic. Now, you'll probably have the habit, especially if you've played a lot of Call of Duty, of constantly strafing to trigger rotational aim assist. Well, that doesn't work in Battlefield 6 because when you strafe, you actually add more bloom to your shots, making you a lot less accurate. Now, there are some things that you can do to counter this that will allow you to strafe and shoot, which we'll get onto later in the video. But first, I want to help you fully understand the mechanic and the best thing to do to give you the best aim possible, which is going to give you the upper hand. Now, in an ideal situation, you'd be laying in prone and be completely still when firing at an opponent. This would give you the least bloom and give you the most accuracy. Combined with tap firing, you'd never miss a shot. But this is Battlefield, and the ideal scenario is very rarely going to be an option to you. So what I like to do is constantly be on the move, strafing left and right, making myself as hard a target to hit as possible. And only at the moment I want to take my shots, I'll stand completely still, tap fire, take down my target, and then go instantly back to moving again to make myself a harder target to hit. You must make the conscious decision to stop moving before you start firing to get the best aim possible. But remember, at those short to medium ranges, it doesn't make as much of a difference. So strafe away to peek in and out of cover, as you just want to make sure you keep moving to make yourself as hard a target to hit as possible. But just try not to strafe all the time. Though, if you are running an SMG, a high fire rate assault rifle, or carbine, fighting inside of buildings and strafing whilst hip firing is an incredibly effective tactic, so take advantage of it. The next tip to help you get better aim in Battlefield 6 is to make sure you're always thinking about your centering. Centering simply means keeping your crosshair aimed at where an enemy is most likely to appear, usually at head or chest height at all times, even before you see them. Now, this is so important because when your crosshair is already in the right place, you don't waste time flicking up or down or to the side to line up a shot. The instant an enemy walks into view, you could start firing your weapon. And that means you're not always being as reactive, so you can then take advantage of all those tips that we've learned in this video so far. Good centering also trains your muscle memory. As you move through doors, hallways, and over cover, your aim naturally stays at head level. So every fight starts with you having a significant advantage over your opponent, especially with how fast the time to kill is in Battlefield 6. To practice it, jump into a match and just walk through the map and picture where enemies could appear in your head. Corners, windows, rooftops, and just keep your crosshair fixed at those spots. So if an enemy does appear, you're able to start firing at them right away. You're effectively always aiming at something, even if a target isn't there. Combine that with short bursts or tap fire to control bloom, and you'll notice your accuracy skyrockets. Now, our next tip to help you improve your aim in Battlefield 6 is an essential one, and it is recoil control, which when you combine with every other tip that you've learned in this video, you are going to be shooting like a pro. And it's pretty simple because without recoil control, even if you're standing still and applying everything that we've kind of learned, your shots are still going to be all over the place. Now, what I like to do, right, is with your right thumbstick, all you have to do is pull it very slightly towards you. Not big, just a slight pressure. I'm talking 10%. And then what that means when you combine it with everything else is your aim will look like this. You'll be able to slot across, easily control your shots, and take down your targets. And like I said, if I'm not doing that, right, I'm either pulling too far, it's still gonna be all over the place. So nice, short, controlled movements. It should just feel like a little bit of pressure on your right thumbstick, and then you combine that with like crouching, and honestly, you are going to be shooting like a pro. Just get used to it, be in the firing range, don't be strafing side to side if you have to, but just whatever gun you're using, just switch between the targets and learn to control that recoil. Now, the next thing that you're going to want to do to get better aim in Battlefield 6 is head over to your settings. You're going to want to go through these absolutely insane menus and head down to controller, then click edit settings. Then you're going to click controller settings to get to this menu. And there are a bunch of things that you're going to want to change. Now, for me, infantry aim sensitivity 35 is the perfect amount for someone to have like a nice, steady sensitivity to snap onto your opponents in Battlefield 6. 110 field of view, if you'd like your targets to be a little bit closer, if you struggle to see your opponents, you could bring this down to like a 90 or 100. I really like 110. But the other really important settings, zoom sensitivity coefficient, you want at 178. Then you're going to head down here and infantry aim input curve, you're going to want to have this as Battlefield 1, Battlefield 4. Stick input acceleration presets, have it as BF4, BF3, and then adjust this to 12. This is just going to make your aim and controller feel a lot better overall. Then you're going to go further down once again and head down to infantry zoom aim sensitivity and turn this to an 86. This means that when you ADS, your sensitivity is going to slow down a bit so you can then control that recoil. You can aim a little bit better and get those headshots and upper chest shots that you want to be hitting. It makes a big, big difference and just gives your aim a much better feel. You're then going to go even further down as well. Just check all your settings and make sure it's all correct. But those are the key settings that you want to change to get the best aim possible. My next big tip to help you improve your aim in Battlefield 6 is to make sure you're running the best loadouts. Now, there are a couple key things that you want to be aware of to make your weapon as accurate as possible. So if you look at the bottom right-hand side of the screen, you have 4 statistics: hipfire, precision, control, and mobility. Now, the key two that we want to be aware of for better aim is precision and control. If you have a higher precision score, that means you're going to get less bloom on your gun. So you're going to get that less of the random bullet deviation, which could be quite frustrating. So you could then choose attachments that will increase that score to give you less bloom. And the control is all about your weapon's recoils. So when you take into everything that we've learned in this video, if you use that recoil control as well, you're going to turn your weapons into an absolute laser beam. Going to use the B36A4 as an example. I think it's one of the best assault rifles in the game. I used the linear compensator, which takes out that horizontal recoil. Now, remember, when we looked at recoil control, it's all about controlling vertical. So it's pulling down on your right thumbstick that little bit. And this attachment means you get less horizontal, which you can't really control as much, and more vertical. So it's a great attachment to choose on pretty much every assault rifle. The other big thing is bullet velocity. And I'd like to kind of choose weapons that have a high bullet velocity because it's easier to hit your targets at range, because when you're firing your weapon, the bullet gets there quicker, so you have to make less adjustments. So the fluted barrel, for example, increases that projectile velocity, makes it much easier. You then got more recoil control attachments like the alloy vertical to reduce the recoil. Magazines, however many bullets you can get, to be honest with you. You can then change your ammo type for like higher headshot damage. So when you're making those adjustments with the better aim that you have, you can get faster TTKs. Then, really important, choose a good optic, right? Like the Mini Flex 1X and then the Rat 2 are two of my favorites that are really, really effective. And that comes down to personal preference to a level. But one of the best attachments in the game is the blue laser. And the reason for this is because it makes that precision so much better, because it's that accuracy while moving. So it increases that precision. You're going to get less deviation when you're strafing. So it makes you more mobile, especially when combining everything you've learned in this video. But make sure you get the best loadouts. I'm going to have them on the channel. Subscribe if you haven't. And then finally, the last thing that you can do is just practice. Spend time hopping into matches and combining all of these tips, and you'll notice a significant improvement very quickly. And if you have any other tips that you want to share to people that have helped you improve your aim, please go ahead and drop them in the comments, and I will see you next time for more Battlefield 6.